Greetings and welcome to this episode on Geeks First. Today, it's all about equipment and what we can expect in heavy hitters. Well, thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to do kind of a relaxed recording here. I have my cat with me who is hovering slightly off screen. If I were to probably change over to this, you can see that he is keeping me company, and I am excruciatingly happy that he is still here with me. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff about him happening lately, so I'm just glad that he's himself-ish, obviously. Yeah, anyways, I'm not going to go down that path. Today, we're going to talk about all the equipment that I'm tracking in my spreadsheet. And if you've watched any of my prior videos, we're going to auto out here to 4. I'm going to make myself bigger. We're going to do this twice because we're doing it live, folks. All right, so as we've done this in the past, hi. Hello. Are you wanting pets now? Are you feeling a little bit better? Can you get some food in you? He takes priority. Sorry, that's case in point. Anywho, so here we have my spreadsheet for tracking the current listing. Okay, bye-bye. Of equipment in Flesh and Blood. Now, this was updated with bright lights. I need to do a thorough reevaluation of this because I've discovered that there are some parts of this that are not as good as they used to be. I was tracking like total legendaries, total majestics, rares, and commons as a numeric value. I've blacked that out here because I didn't keep those totals accurate like I needed, and I feel like it was detrimental to have wrong numbers in there because people would like to call out the errors versus like actually going through the thought process of what's cool. So this video is more along the lines of me discussing where I believe my calls for gaps in a current equipment suite are going to possibly land, and what we'll probably see in this set of Flesh and Blood, because it would be really nice to maybe fill in some of these gaps. So we have these divided here in column A as the generic, brute, guardian, illusionist, mechanologist, your main class lines going on down the board. Now, when we start getting into this end section, you'll start to see that there's a kind of a combination of a talent and a class, because there are certain cards that are specific, like Silken Form here, that is a draconic illusionist only, and it's a combined piece of equipment, meaning I can only categorize it if I have those two keywords together. So it doesn't fall into the illusionist category, which would be up here, but it does fall into there. And that's what these purples are. These purples, or basically blanks, mean that no piece of equipment fills that. There is no, at this point, guardian legs in the game. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There is no generic legendary. That's why this is blue. So the color scheme means something. So the rarest generic card currently released in the leg slot is blue, which is a rare. Red, aka Brute, in Skull Crusher in Arms, is a Majestic. That means that is the highest rarity there. If it's white, that is just a common. And obviously, the gold being the legendary means that we have legendary in the chest position. In this case, Findel's Spring Tunic, or Findel's Spring Tunic, depending on who you talk to, and so on and so forth. So that is how I have broken these out. Now, if we go to the far right, you'll notice that we have talents, because these were individual talents that existed. Now, I don't believe I've missed any. I think there might be a couple more that might pop up from time to time, but we have Earth, Straight Elemental, Ice, Lightning, Light, Shadow, Draconic, and Royal, and the subsequent chart in relation to where those go there. This hasn't been updated because really talents has not been a focus of Flesh and Blood 2.0 since the kind of exiting of Tales of Aria and Uprising did have talents. Obviously, it had Draconic in it. You know, it had yeah. So talents I can't say did not exist in 2.0 because Icelander obviously did have talents. So did Phi and so on and so forth. But what this is focusing on, what we're going to zoom into here, is we're going to talk about my speculations for heavy hitters and where I think the class might benefit from. So let's first start with the theoretical concept that there are going to be 3 main classes in heavy hitters. This is, again, a speculation. Today is December the 3rd, 2023. So we had very limited bits of information. Now, we have had an official spoiler that happened earlier. We got Kasai, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and Kasai is a warrior. So we can start with warrior if we want. So let's go ahead and go down. Warrior here. So warrior has, if you look up on this, I wonder if I can I pin this top row? Anyway, so it goes legs, chest, arms, head. That's important. So for legs, we have Valiant Dynamo. That's a legendary. Chest, we only have Courage of Blayhold, so that means that we could have an upgrade there. So I have notated that in another section. And then for arms, we have Brave Forge Bracers as well as Iron Song Verses. And then for head, we have Helm of Sharp Eye. So if I had to take a speculative guess, we can assume that Warrior is going to have possibly a legendary slot option for either the chest or the head. That would be 2 options. Now, what would be neat and what I think they're going to do, because there's only so many slots available, and I can look at the product page to give you the exact number of legendaries. I believe it's 6, maybe 8. All right, there's actually only 5 legendaries. I just went ahead and took a quick look. And I think this is where you'll see the dual class or triple class to aid in spreading these legendaries out, but still be useful, especially with the idea that heavy hitters is kind of a draft set, that's for sure, but it's also a UPF focused set. There is a way you can play UPF with it, so that's phenomenal. Let's go ahead and next move to the next thought, which is brutes. Brutes are missing their chest because they don't have a legendary chest, but they do have a legendary leg and scabskin leathers. They do not have a legendary arms because the highest they have is a skull crusher, Majestic, and in the head they have the scowling flesh bag, which is a legendary. So if we assume that brute will be in there, then that could mean that there might be a chest and an arm. So if we look, the next one would be a generic. Typically kind of comes in some sets, not all the time, but Bright Lights was an example. There were no Majestics. I'm sorry, there were no generics, but there could be generics in this next set. If there is, Legs is missing a legendary. So it would almost make sense to have some sort of gladiator boots or something. That'd be really neat. Last up on that list is going to be Guardian. Guardian has a big fat blank in the legs, meaning if I'm reading and understanding right, there are no Guardian legs unless we specifically talk about the Tolarian Community College verse. I'm going to walk somebody through this, by the way, because this is a very useful test. There is a civic steps. I am wrong, because I did not add TCC versus LSS into this. All right, so we're back. Guardian actually does have one. It's in the TCC LSS kit. It's a common, but again, there is room to grow. So let's go ahead and come down here and take a look at what I had for outsiders and for brutes. I don't know why I said outsiders and brutes. That's the wrong term. So in outsiders, we can see that I believed there to be a generic legs or an arm. In Ninja, I thought maybe a leg or a chest. Assassin was a chest, head, and arms, and Ranger, those were the missing ones. So you can now compare that to what we actually got. In Heavy Hitters, we're missing a generic leg. We're missing a Guardian legs, arm, and head, a Warrior chest and head, and a Brute chest and arms. Now with that dual class overlap, this is where I believe we're going to fall. If you notice, chest appears on both Warrior and Brute. Arms appear on Guardian and Brute, and head is Warrior and Guardian, which means those 3 Venn diagrams would overlap, and we could have a generic warrior, a generic legs theoretically, a Warrior / Guardian head, which would cover both those slots, a Brute / Guardian arms, and a Brute / Warrior chest. Now, that is assuming that I somehow have a fantasy ball looking into the future, but it does make sense if there's only 5 legendaries in the set, using 3 of those legendaries to dual class legendaries, having 1 generic legendary, and then maybe having some oddball legendary that maybe is for something else or for another class, because again, the weakest class of these, when we look, Brute has 2 legendaries available to them, Guardian has 1 legendary, and Warrior has 1, 2 legendaries. So to make it fair, you could almost make the assumption Guardian would get another legendary, because if they're truly missing 3 legendary slots, and we have slated that the Guardian slot would contain a head and an arms, then the Guardian head and arms are covered, but the legs are still there. So there might be a dedicated Guardian legs legendary, and then you'd have a generic legendary, and then the 3 dual class. If I had to pick, that's my thought. Now, if you look at the Fableds, obviously this is a great slot in for like a CNC kind of remake, similar to how they did it in the other one. Otherwise, there is a Guardian Fabled pitch gym at the moment. Warrior does not have a pitchable gym, neither does Brute. So I don't know if there's going to be a Brute or a Guardian gym. You can't put 2. I don't think there's going to be 2 Fables. So to me, it maybe makes more sense that they're going to do a high-end Command and Conquer or something, which doesn't really make much sense for the thematicness of the set, in my opinion, because Command and Conquer is not really gladiator-esque or gladiator-centric, or really useful in multiplayer. So, I mean, it is useful in multiplayer, but it doesn't really target multiple people. So, I don't know. This is a pure speculative video here, but I think that that is where we sit with stuff. And all right, so we're now looking at the product sheet for heavy hitters, and you can see here Kasai is front and center with heavy hitters in the product sheet right here. One of the interesting things about heavy hitters to me is, you know, like this character here, we don't, that I'm aware of, know the name of this character, but they're talking about, you know, upping the level of pro circuit play and stuff like that, but that's not what I'm focused on. When you start getting into this page here, this is really the meat and potatoes of what they've provided. And because the release is in February, you know, this is December, we still have 2 full months. Well, we have 1 full month and really just the beginning of, no, because we're in the beginning of December. Today is December 3rd, so yeah, we have 2 months from today when I'm filming this to when the release date happens. And because the preview season is basically mid-January into the heavy hitters celebrational thing that's in New Zealand, you're probably not going to see much of these cards until the second half of January. So it's probably going to be pretty lax for the first 2 weeks of January. But because the way that they're doing this set, you can see that there are generics. Front and center right here is money where your mouth is, and that looks like Valda as an example. That's one of the theories that I have is that maybe Valda could be this, because there's been told to be 6 different heroes in this. So we know Kasai is one, maybe Valda is another. You could have KO as a third, you know, being a repeat customer from the original Crucible of War section. But again, you could also have a literally brand new set of heroes. So I don't know where they're taking this, but if you think about the Guardians that exist, or the Warriors that exist, or the Brutes that exist, assuming again those 3 archetypes are where they are, or if you don't see dual class cards, right, because we're not seeing those just yet in this preview, you know, you could very much see something. I just, there's a lot of speculation. Anyway, so to circle back on this, so you have Kasai of the Golden Sand. This has been something that has been wanted by a lot of Flesh and Blood players for a while. Kasai was only a young hero. There's still very few-ish characters that have not been forwarded into the adult sphere so that you can only play with them in Blitz. And Kasai had been one of those heroes. Now Kasai obviously does have an adult. Now, because it's a different named character, they'll have a separate Living Legends status so that you can see how they progress through the ranks. I can tell that this set is looking like it's kind of more of a wagering set or a betting set, really focusing, looks like, on the gold, copper, silver. Probably this is the gold set. Assassins were more of the silver set, and the original Crucible of War was definitely more of the copper set. So you'll notice like copper was in there. You had Kasai who dealt with copper, and then Everfest had like the merchant, silver palms and silver tokens there. Then you had Dynasty, which had a bunch of silver for the assassins. Now you have heavy hitters, which I'm assuming will have a gold theme focus. You had Crown of Providence there, that deals with gold. But now you could almost look at it like there's going to be something where the holiday promo this year, he's a merchant, but he deals in gold, so that kind of finishes the trifecta. So Floofy, which I have him in a box because I'm taking him to the coaxing with me, he is the third merchant, which is the copper, silver, gold merchant. So some things of note: the MSRP hasn't changed, still $109.90. One Fabled, pretty standard. 5 legendaries, seems about on par. 40 Majestics, little high. I think I have to look at the last set, but it might have been a little bit lower. Bright Lights excluded because that was a very specific set for Mac. But 67 asterisk rares, and it says I need to find what the asterisk is. I don't know why there's an asterisk. Okay, that's weird. Don't know. Gonna move on. Cold foil still seems 1 per pack. Rainbow foil 1 per pack. 2 rare plus common. So again, pack distribution, same. Definitely curious if there's going to be dual class cards. Now let's move to another site and check out something. Alright, so now we're looking at Fabry, and Fabry has kind of a list here of the revealed cards so far. So when my first video came out on the news, we saw these unknown set numbers one here, the Talk Big Game, Double Down, Runner, and Starting Stake, which I just gotta say, Starting Stake looks pretty sweet, like this guy here. It'd be fun to cosplay him, and then as you're cosplaying him, you just don't have any pants, but instead you have a table because you can't see his legs. So like part of the fun of this would almost be like literally having the cosplay where it's like you're walking around and the table is in front of you, where you're flipping gold coins at people. You're just like, ha, take it, ha. That'd be cute. So we don't have a name on him because there's no flavor text, sadly, but it's generic, which again solidified to me that I think there was going to be some generic. Now, again, here you can see that we have a Guardian and Brute crossover card. So, pausing, going back to here, Guardian and Brute is one of the options, which would mean maybe this is the arms section if you go for the dual class. Now you have a Guardian and Warrior, which means if you go to here, the Guardian Warrior would be the head slot, and then the Brute Warrior would be the chest slot, if those hold true. But that's where we got to see some of the dual classes. That is why we anticipate that there is going to be dual class cards in this set. Now, just like, I guess, the last 2 sets, has it been 2? No. Bright Lights was the first slot set, so this will be the second slot set. They're already still continuing the put cards in a list slot with this, it looks like, which is where the Assassin and the 2 Ranger cards here are. Obviously, they're going to reprint the gold token, and it's neat that they have these generic pieces of equipment that basically get better. The star there is better based on the number of heroes. So in UPF or UPF focused, these would have, in a 4-player game, 3 block, which is kind of nice. So obviously with Blade Break they only last the one time, but we can see that there's some generics in here. You have a reprint here of the Centauri Saber. That's from Crucible of War. That means that that card will, work with any warrior. It is one-handed. I would like to see some maybe options for one-handed. I would love to see a stupid one-handed generic weapon or a two-handed generic weapon so that I have something other than Talishar to run with merchants or something else. It would be fantastic if there was a two-handed merchant or a two-handed generic weapon, but I know that the balancing there and some weird crap, they just got to make sure. I don't know. There's got to be some way to maybe try it, but otherwise we have seen cards that are in the class for warrior, and really that kind of wraps up what we've seen. There's not a lot of other cards that are in this, but it looks like, again, Graven's Call here is an assassin weapon, so because of that we have it, I would assume 4 list slots, because that's 245, 246, 249, and 250. So those are slot list cards. And then if we look here, we see the set is 255. So if there's 255 cards, and we have seen that of the 255, the lowest one of these is 245, we can assume that there's probably 10 lists card slots, and we have seen 4 of those, so still probably looking for, I would guess, another 6 of those list card slots when we're all said and done. I'm in focus here, but I'm not in focus here. That's the beauty of having a camera, right? So you can see there's a lot to think about when you make videos. So I'm gonna be pretty busy for the next couple of days getting ready to go to the coaxing, which is coming up 1 week from today. So I will get this video out, and I'm going to try and redo my second part of my Chapter 2 Flesh and Blood Hero section. And other than that, I don't think I'll have any more time this week to work on any additional content. Otherwise, I'll be filming some stuff at the coaxing. I will definitely enjoy being able to go out and explore and play UPF. It's kind of sad I didn't get to go to Columbus, but just wasn't able to do multiple things in a single weekend, so have to pick and choose. But looking to see what we can get to in 2024. That would be exciting. I know it's getting to the end of the year, so probably going to do an end-of-year recap video of kind of some thoughts where I think things are going to go. But yeah, that's been a quick video on the selection of tools that I think will be coming up in the next set. So like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for more content, and until next time, may your games be fun and your friendships grow. Cheers.